May 10, 1940. In the harbor of a sleepy North Atlantic capital, warships appear out of the fog, and a nation with no army, no navy, and no air force wakes up invaded. The only armed resistance available is a police force of 70 men, and within hours, even they will be helping the invaders get ashore. By nightfall, an entire country will have changed hands, and not a single shot will have been fired. 1 month earlier, Nazi Germany overruns Denmark in a single day, shattering the 700-year union that ties Iceland to the Danish crown. Overnight, Reykjavik is politically orphaned, a neutral island suddenly cut off from its government, sitting exposed in the middle of the sea lanes that keep Britain alive. Iceland declares itself capable of defending its own neutrality. Almost no one in London believes that claim for a moment. In London, Winston Churchill studies the map and reaches an unbearable conclusion. If Germany seizes Iceland first, U-boats and long-range bombers could operate from its coastline and strangle the convoys Britain depends on for food, fuel, and weapons. Whoever controls this island controls the North Atlantic, and Churchill refuses to let Berlin get there first. The War Cabinet begins drawing up plans for an operation with no precedent, invading a friend to keep out an enemy. Britain quietly offers Iceland a defensive alliance, hoping for permission to garrison the island before Germany can act. Reykjavik refuses, determined to preserve a neutrality it has no real power to enforce, and in Whitehall that refusal makes the decision for them. If the invitation will not be given, the War Cabinet resolves, the island will simply be taken, whether Iceland consents or not. On May 3, 1940, the War Cabinet authorizes Operation Fork, the full military occupation of a friendly, neutral country, planned and assembled in barely a week. There is no time to select elite troops, gather intelligence, or rehearse the landing. Britain will invade Iceland with whatever force it can scrape together from home ports in the days it has left. Speed matters more than readiness. The fear of a German landing outweighs every other consideration. That force is named Force Sturgis after its commander, Colonel Robert Sturgis of the Royal Marines, and it numbers just 746 men tasked with conquering an entire country. Most are hastily mobilized conscripts pulled straight from training depots, green recruits, many of whom have never fired a rifle outside a classroom, let alone faced an enemy. It is, by any normal military standard, a force wildly unequal to the task assigned to it. On May 8, the force departs Greenock, Scotland, aboard the cruiser HMS Berwick and her escorts, bound for a coastline almost none of them have ever seen on a map, let alone in person. The North Atlantic turns violent almost immediately, and within a day, seasickness accomplishes what no enemy could, leaving hundreds of Marines too ill to stand, let alone storm a beach. By the time land comes into view, this invasion force is less an army than a convoy of exhausted, dehydrated men. Somewhere inside that gray, heaving crossing, on May 9th, Marine John Shelley takes his own life aboard HMS Berwick. He will be the only fatality Operation Fork produces from beginning to end, a quiet, private tragedy folded inside an invasion that will otherwise spill no blood at all. His death is a grim reminder that even a bloodless campaign carries a human cost the history books rarely record. At dawn on May 10, 1940, the gray silhouettes of the British fleet slide into Reykjavik harbor, and the capital wakes to find itself under invasion. There is no bombardment, no assault under fire, just warships dropping anchor as startled residents gather along the waterfront, more curious than afraid. Fishermen and shopkeepers watch history unfold from their doorsteps, uncertain whether to run, resist, or simply keep staring. Waiting on the docks is Gerald Shepherd, the British consul, who has known for days that this morning was coming. He steps forward not as a diplomat caught by surprise, but as the quiet inside coordinator of his own country's invasion, already smoothing the way before a single Marine sets foot on the pier. His calm, practiced presence turns what could be chaos into something closer to a scheduled arrival. Reykjavik's entire police force numbers barely 70 officers, led by acting chief Einar Arnolds, and rather than resist, they are asked to hold back the crowd of onlookers so the British can land unimpeded. It may be the strangest request of the entire war. Local law enforcement clearing a path for their own country's occupation. Arnolds agrees, and the crowd parts, corralled by the very officers meant to defend the nation's sovereignty. The Marines who stagger down the gangways are pale, hollow-eyed, and shaking from 2 days of violent seasickness, some barely able to shoulder their rifles. Icelandic civilians watch less with fear than with bewilderment, witnessing an invading army arrive looking not like conquerors, but like men simply grateful to reach dry land. Some onlookers reportedly help exhausted Marines find their footing on the very soil they have come to occupy. Within hours, British units fan out across Reykjavik to seize the assets that matter most: the telegraph office, the radio transmitter, the meteorological station critical to transatlantic weather forecasting. There are no barricades to storm. Soldiers simply knock on the door, state their business, and walk inside, capturing the nerve center of a nation without breaking a single lock. By midday, Iceland's entire communications network belongs to Britain, seized without so much as a raised voice. At the German consulate, Werner Gerlach understands exactly what the invasion means for him, and scrambles to destroy his secret files, stuffing papers into the bathtub and setting them alight. In his panic, he forgets to open a window, and British troops find him half-conscious from the smoke, his documents only partially burned, the single moment of resistance in the entire operation. Whatever intelligence survives the flames, Gerlach himself is arrested within minutes and taken into custody. As soldiers move house to house securing key buildings, they carry printed flyers written in broken Icelandic, apologizing for the intrusion and politely requesting cooperation. It is an invasion conducted with the manners of an uninvited houseguest, armed, unwelcome, and scrupulously, almost comically courteous about it. Doors across Reykjavik end up plastered with apologies instead of ultimatums. Prime Minister Hermann Jónasson threads an impossible needle. He lodges a formal diplomatic protest to preserve Iceland's legal claim to neutrality before the world, while privately ordering his people to treat the occupying troops as guests, not enemies. It is a calculated act of national survival. Outrage committed to paper, calm maintained in the streets. The strategy works. No civilian uprising follows, and no Icelandic blood is spilled. By nightfall on May 10th, Reykjavik is under complete British control, and not one shot has been fired by either side of the operation. In exchange for the intrusion, Britain promises Iceland compensation and a full withdrawal once the war is won. A legal fiction both governments understand may take years to actually honor. For now, occupation is simply the price of surviving a war Iceland never chose to join. Strategically, the payoff is immediate. With Iceland secured, Britain seals the mid-Atlantic gap that German U-boats and long-range aircraft could otherwise have exploited to cut the convoy routes feeding the war effort. A base that might have doomed Allied shipping instead becomes one of the strongest shields protecting it. Every ship that later crosses safely owes something to the Seasick Marines who claimed this island first. What begins with 746 exhausted Royal Marines soon grows far beyond anything the War Cabinet first imagined. British troops hand the mission to American forces in 1941, and by the war's end, as many as 30,000 Allied personnel are stationed across the island, an occupation 40 times the size of the invasion that started it. Iceland's economy, infrastructure, and society are transformed almost overnight by the foreign presence. Operation Fork remains one of the strangest campaigns of the Second World War. A full national invasion carried out with apologetic flyers, a cooperating police force, and a single death that had nothing to do with combat. Out of that bloodless occupation comes a lasting Allied foothold in the Atlantic, and in 1944, a fully independent Republic of Iceland born, unexpectedly, in the shadow of the invasion that never fired a shot. Sometimes history's hinge points turn not on gunfire, but on seasickness, good manners, and a nation choosing to simply let it happen.